Our keynote speaker today, Mike Lipkin. Let me just give you a little bit on Mike and his bio. Mike is known as a true change champion. He is the founder and president of Environics and Lipkin, a global research and motivation company. And I've had a few calls with Mike leading up to this and setting the agenda. He is truly motivational, right? So if you need energy, we're going to get some energy very shortly. He combines Environics trademark social values research with his personal expertise to provide organizations with the tools to take powerful action and achieve preeminence in their workplace. And Mike is not only working with us today, he has worked in different divisions. He's worked with shoppers. He's worked with the finance group, all talking about change. Talking about change and talking about collaboration and how this enterprise is changing. Mike truly brings out the best in leaders and employees around the world and has written nine best-selling books on leadership effectiveness, one of which we have today. So Mike has graciously offered all of us a book. And how many are there of us, Nadine? 310 people? 310. So Mike's going to sign 310 books. Are you, Mike? No. So, no, but Mike will sign books at the break. And so this is a truly incredible opportunity to have Mike with us today. I'm thrilled to have him, and I'd like to just pass over the stage to Mike right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Barry, thank you very much. That's exactly how an introduction should be made, with just the right amount of affection and insight, and setting the bar so high that I got to meet it. How many of you have ever had someone who's really outstanding brand you as outstanding and then raise the expectations of everyone around you? Has that ever happened? No one's ever had someone raise expectations? So when people raise expectations to that level, I love that, because now all I have to do is meet those expectations, right? As opposed to you not knowing who I am and then it taking you 5 or 10 minutes to decide whether you should even listen to me or not. So if Barry brands me as a great resource, you know I'm a great resource, right? And so what all of us want is we want to have our colleagues talking about us in such a way that everyone else wants to work with us. Because as I travel the length and breadth of this continent, what I see is really two kinds of people: those with whom we have to work and those with whom we want to work. So you want to be someone that when other people think of working with, so the night before, the next day, when they think of their meeting with you, you want them to be so excited they have difficulty sleeping. I know when people think of your face, they get really excited, right? Hello? Yeah. And that's a key part of what I'm going to talk to you about today. So really, the theme of my talk today is dancing with disruption. I'm going to talk about what it means to dance metaphorically and physically. I'm also going to talk about disruption, but most importantly, I want to give you in a very short time frame 7 secrets to thriving on the kind of change Barry spoke about, but very importantly, so the best people want to partner with you. You know, that loyalty loop, all the success metrics that Barry shared with you is really going to be a function of one fundamental action, and that is how you show up and how you engage on any given day. It's all up to you along with everybody else. So I cannot think of a more appropriate group to share this message within this group, because I look around this room and I see a beautiful diversity. I also see a range of demographics. I see a lot of Gen Z, right? And I see a lot of millennials. And by the way, did you know that in 2020, the first of the millennials will turn 40? So even the millennials are becoming middle-aged, right? And then, of course, there's Gen Xers, and then there's the boomers, the folks between 47 and 62, and then there's even a few geezers. Just joking, right? I personally, just so you know, I'm a millennial. I just happen to have 5.5 decades worth of experience being a millennial. But I will tell you that the best thing about the future is it comes 24 hours at a time. So if you want to have a fantastic career, if you want to build the kind of future and dreams for yourself and for your family, what you've got to do is take care of this day. Because today is your entire life in miniature. So if you play full out today, if you engage with everyone around you today, if you help make today a phenomenal success, the rest of your life will take care of itself. So just turn to a person on either side of you, just look them in the eyes and just say, it's always day one. Right. Okay, so this is good. By the way, every now and then I will get you just to have a little chat with each other, not because I'm just asking you to repeat what I'm saying or just say a shallow phrase, but how many of you have noticed that sometimes you think you understand a concept, because have you noticed when we talk to ourselves, we're incredibly articulate, but then when you try and share it with somebody else, the words don't come out as fluently as you'd like them to come out. So one of the challenges, one of the invitations I want to put to you is when you hear something new, immediately you want to share it with the folks around you so that you know that you know. Because you only know that you know if you can help somebody else know. So let's talk a little thing or a little bit about dancing. How many of you have been dancing at least once in the past 6 months? All right, great. If you're not raising your hand, get a life. Right? But why I like dancing as a metaphor is when you dance, you've got to be agile. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be partnering with someone in some kind of performance. When you dance with someone or something, you're also in harmony with them. You've got rapport with them. And you share a common purpose. In this case, a common passion, a passion for the customer. But importantly, you become a source of other people's joy and energy. So while, Barry's had a challenging couple of days and he got in late and he asked you for your energy, that's more than just this request. We're all dependent on the energy of the folks around us. We're only as good as the company that we keep. So I'm going to ask you to make a commitment to a person on either side of you now. Only make this commitment if you're willing to live by it. Look them in the eyes and just say, from this day forward, I will be the source of your joy at work. Right. Okay. Yeah, look. All right, come back to me. Let me tell you something very important. I want to give you the difference between happiness and joy. Happy is when we get what we want. Happy is when the situation turns out the way we want it to turn out. So it's a temporary state of affairs. Joy is when we have a state of fulfillment that transcends adversity or crisis. So right now, I can tell you there's nowhere in the world I'd rather be than sharing my thoughts with this world-class organization and being part of today's event. In fact, I'm not even doing this for the money. I'm going to take Barry's money. I'm not doing it for the money. And I'll tell you what I've learned. The best professionals at heart are amateurs. You know what the word amateur means? It comes from the Latin word love, amatore. So if you're doing it for the love, then the returns follow. And other people can sense it. Does that make sense? Hello? By the way, this is not TV. I can see you. Right? Okay, good. Great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about disruption. So, Barry spoke about some of the change that you've been going through. You don't need me to tell you the kind of meteoric pace that change is moving at. But we define disruption as a radical change that shatters status quo. And if you think of the change that you're going through, the great thing is that you're leading this change. You are the disruptors, not the disruptees. You are creating a basket of offering, a basket of services that is building the loyalty loop and making people want to be associated with you and specifically with the products and the experiences and the services that you offer. So disruption is a crisis. And by the way, I love that word crisis. Crisis is defined as a defining moment or a turning point. And it rewards the fast and it punishes the slow. And I'm looking at a group of people who like to move fast, except we've got to move fast and we've got to deliver extraordinary quality. And then I want you to look at this final sentence, because if all you do is take the sentence away, my work here will be done. It is also a person that can cause a shift in thinking, action, and consequences. So every one of you can have an idea, can have an input that really shifts the entire offering. And someone once said to me, to the world, you might just be one person, but to one person, you might just be the world. So to that colleague or to that customer, if you bring the intention that day to cause a shift, you can cause a shift that can build momentum over time. So just turn to a person on either side of you and just say to them, you can cause a shift. Right. Okay. Now, you can see that the visual that I've used for this is the burning ceiling or the burning roof of the Cathedral of Notre Dame. You know what happened. In 5 hours, an 800-year-old structure burned down because the authorities weren't taking care of it. They didn't have sensors, they didn't have fire breaks, they didn't have an indication of how to respond when there was a crisis, and so it burnt down. But then over the next 3 days, the world responded magnificently and raised 1.5 billion euros to fix it. So the moral of the story is don't wait for something to burn down before you're magnificent. Part of what we're all doing over here is to preempt issues, but also to pursue opportunities before the competition. So let's talk about dancing with disruption. Let me walk you through these 7 secrets. And by the way, the word secret simply means information possessed by a few, desired by the many. So you and I are exposed to information every day, and we think it's just trivial, or we think it's garden variety stuff, or we think that everybody should know this, but they don't. And the way you can leverage your information, the way you can build your knowledge into benefits to others is what makes all the difference. So the first secret, and as you can see from the first secret, the secret is it's no secret. Right? How many of you have ever been to a presentation where somebody said something and you said to yourself, I know that. That's obvious. Well, here's what I believe. Anything is obvious once it's been thought of. So as I travel across North America, what I see is people being exposed to the same issue, and one person becomes outstanding and the other person becomes overwhelmed because they understand what to do with what's coming at them. So the first secret is you want to become someone who really knows. You want to go deep. You want to become known as someone that other people can turn to for insight, guidance, and advice. And all our data tells us that Canadians are terrified of being people who are duped into making important decisions based on fake information. 65% of Canadians told us they are scared of making a life-changing decision based on fake information. So you want to become known as someone who has access and who can share authentic information. Now, this is my brother from a different mother. Have you noticed a remarkable similarity? Give or take about 100 billion. But Jeff Bezos said something, and it has made a big impact on me. And he said, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. So the challenge that I put to you, and you want to be thinking about this, is as a result of people interacting with you, what is it that you want them to say about you after interacting with you? So can I just see by show of hands, how many of you have seen me before? Has anyone seen me present before? Okay, so we've probably got, 5 to 10% of the audience who've seen me before. Not that many people know how well known I am. Okay? But those 5 or 10% of people expect me to be like this because I've trained them to expect me to be like this. So in every meeting, ask yourself, after this meeting, how do I want people to see me? And then behave like that. Build that perception that you want others to have of you. Now we get into what I think is a core slide. So if you're going to become someone who really knows, then you want to be operating at the very highest level of service excellence. So the basic level, and if you're Canadian, you qualify for this level because you're nice and you're friendly. Like many of you in this room, I immigrated to Canada. I came here from my native South Africa, and I came to Canada because I did my homework, and I discovered that this country has the highest per capita concentration of nice people in the world. Right? So a professional visitor is you're nice, you're friendly, and you just take orders. And you get it done. At the next level, you become what's known as a product pusher. You focus on pushing what suits you. So when you're in a meeting with colleagues, you don't have a passion for the customer, you have a passion for self-preservation. And while you're knowledgeable, people are cognizant of the fact that you're not operating with their interests in mind. At the mid-level, you become what's known as a satisficer. That's not a spelling mistake, a satisficer. You do enough to suffice. And by the way, there's certain words that we've made up. And this is one of them. You do enough to meet expectations, nothing more. This is when you don't disappoint, you don't delight, you just become another forgettable part of an unmemorable day. Then at the next level, you become a partner. You become a valued, trusted advisor. And by the way, if all you do is operate at this fourth level, you will do exceptionally well. But at the highest level, you become the thought leader, where you are perceived as the best in the game. And I want to say something very important here. So at Barry's level, he's expected to be a thought leader at that board member level. If you've just joined, how many of you have been with Loblaw for less than a month? Who's been here for less than a month? Okay. If you can just stand up for a second, if you've been here for less than a month. I'm not going to ask you to do anything. We just want to see you. Less than a month. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Great. Take a seat. So if you've been here for less than a month, you're expected to be a thought leader as someone who's been here less than a month. But you want to represent that kind of thinking. And everything that I read about blue culture suggests that this organization wants you to bring your best to work every day, to share your point of view. Because that point of view that you share, that could be the spark that lights the fire. And as the great Bruce Springsteen sings, you can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire, even though we're all just dancing in the dark. Okay? He wrote those words 25 years ago, and they are as relevant today as they were then. Okay. So let's get to number 2, and this is my favorite secret. This is about being an audacious dreamer. A dreamer is someone who has a vision in their mind that excites them and also lights up the people around them. And I'm going to share with you some great examples of people who are audacious dreamers. But audacious means bold. It means bold in the extreme. And what we've just seen is a vision that's bold, and you are the people who are going to turn that vision into reality. But my invitation to everyone in this room is be cognizant of your personal dream and how your personal dream lines up with the Loblaw dream or with the payments and reward dream. Because you want to be living your dream every day. Can I see by show of hands, how many of you in this room, as you sit here right now, believe that you are living the dream? Okay, so we've got maybe 20% of the audience. Now, I want you just to think about this one more time. If you think about what's going on in the world today, you think about what's going on just south of the border, for heaven's sake. You think about all the people out there who would give anything to be in this room at this stage listening to this program. Now, just think about where you are. Think about the kind of future that you are building, that you're moving into. Think about the impact that you're having on literally millions of Canadians. Think about the challenges that are going to stretch and grow you over the next 12 months. Think about the adventure you're about to have. Think about the amazing talent that's here in this room. Think about what's ahead of you. Now I want to ask again, how many of you think that you're living the dream? Right, a few more hands. Exactly. And by the way, let me just give you this insight. This is as good as it gets. Right? Tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. It's always day one, but this could be the day. Right? So just want you to keep that thought in mind. And just know that if you lose your dreams, you just may lose your mind. When I talk to people who are enthusiastic, who've got a lot of energy, and they're not necessarily as extrovert or out there as I might be on the stage here today. They might be quieter, they might be more cool, calm, and collected, but they always operate with that dream in mind. They understand what the end zone is. And so if you look at the great Mick Jagger, and he's one of my icons, from the neck up he's like about 100, but from the neck down he's like 25, and he's doing some of his best work, and he's 76 years old. When the Rolling Stones come to town, they sell out. And the people who love the Rolling Stones range from Gen Zs all the way to octogenarians. So you want to remember the famous Mick Jagger's words. Now look, all of us at some stage in our lives will have a moment where we appreciate the fact that in that moment we're living beyond the dream. Back in June 2002, I was asked by the Nelson Mandela Foundation to come and do a workshop for the foundation, and my payment was I got to meet Nelson Mandela. Now, when this photograph was taken, Nelson Mandela was 92 years old. Okay? I don't know about you, I want to look like that when I'm 62. But I had 10 minutes with him, and I asked him a simple question. I said, Mr. Mandela, what was it like suffering for all those years? And he looked at me and he said, Michael, I didn't suffer. He said, I prepared to live my life every day, so when I was released, I would transform my nation into the kind of nation I dreamt of it becoming. And that's how he got through 27 years, one day at a time. And that's why he helped transform that country into the miracle it became. And I love this phrase. He says, live in a way that enhances the freedom of others. Or in our case, let's live in a way that enhances the joy of others. Let's live in a way that enhances the environment in which other people have to come and work. And by the way, compared to Nelson Mandela, how's your life looking? Okay, so let's go from one icon to another one. The great Bianca. So as we all know, she triumphed over the great Serena Williams, who's another one of my icons. And she gave this interview after her victory. And just before she gave the interview, I spoke to her and asked her to say the following words that you'll hear. And I want you to think about what she says and then think about how you can apply this in your everyday life.
This wasn't the only time I visualized playing in the finals, actually against Serena Williams. It's so crazy, man. Sorry. I've been dreaming of this moment for the longest time. Like I said, after I won the Orange Bowl, a couple months after, I really believed that I could be at this stage. And since then, honestly, I've been visualizing it almost every single day. So for it to become a reality is just so crazy. I guess these visualizations really, really work. Oh, I'm good. Continue. No, I'm good. I'm doing.
All right, so look, my question to you is, what are you visualizing every day? Because these visualizations really work. You know, at that level, talent is a given. Character is a given. So it's the ability to visualize that success, and what you can dream, you can make happen, but you've got to be able to see it. And by the way, did you also see that she wasn't, not that she did it consciously, but emotion also endears you and makes you authentic to the people around you, as long as you're helping them win, or as long as you're demonstrating that you're a champion. So let's go to the next secret. We've spoken about being the person who really knows. We've spoken about being an audacious dreamer. The third one is where you start to make this real. You become simultaneously analytical and creative. Let me demonstrate what I'm saying over here. So let's go back. So all of us have got a left brain and we've got a right brain. Our left brain is our rational, engineering, pragmatic, logical, reality-driven part of the brain. And this is where you have to go deep. You have to be someone who's mastered the details, who's mastered the fundamentals. But our right brain is our creative brain, is the imaginative part of the brain. That's where we get to breakthroughs. That's where we discover opportunities to innovate and pioneer and disrupt status quo. And so all of us in this room need to demonstrate this skill. And this, according to 100,000 HR managers interviewed by LinkedIn at the beginning of 2019, is the most in-demand skill of 2019. And that skill is very simply creativity. And creativity is defined as the use of imagination or original ideas to create something, inventiveness, resourcefulness, and as importantly, self-empowerment. So when you think of going face-to-face with a customer, when you think of the convergence that you're going through, when you think of enabling your colleagues to provide this kind of preeminent customer experience, how can you bring your creativity and your innovation to the equation? And let me give you a great story, because in addition to being a great artiste, the great Beyoncé is one of the great entrepreneurs and disruptors of our time. Many of you might be familiar with the fact that on the 12th of December 2013, she changed the music model in the world forever. She was one of the first major artists to understand the impact of Instagram and Facebook and all the social media networks to communicate her offering while eliminating the middle person, not even needing to promote or use a record label. So on the midnight, 12th of December 2013, Beyoncé dropped her album Beyoncé, comprising 14 songs and 14 videos on iTunes, and it came as a complete surprise to the marketplace. And over the next 3 days, she became the best-selling album of all time because she understood the nature of the business, she understood the granularities of the business, but she was also creative and bold and courageous enough to move the needle and push the envelope, and that's how you become Beyoncé. Now, all of us can find our own way to identify the dots, connect the dots, and then project the dots. Okay, so let's get to 4. Now, 4 is where you've got to do a lot of things. You know, winners will always lose more than losers because they're trying more things. You know, Mr. Motivator here gets 9 no's for every yes. All right, I get 9 no's for every yes because I'm often pitching myself. I'm often presenting myself as the guy who's going to help people get motivated, except in my world, like yours, it's highly competitive. So I've learned now that when I hear a no, I don't hear a no. I hear a fraction of a yes. So work with me here, because I know many of you are highly numerate. When I get a yes, I make $1,000, but I got to make 10 calls to get a yes, because I get 9 no's, then I get the 1 yes, then I make $1,000. You with me so far? So how much is a no worth to me? Okay, I've got to get 9 no's and 1 yes to make $1,000. How much is a no worth? $100. Does everybody get that? Okay, if you don't, who said it's 100? Yeah? What's your first name? John. John, if you can just stand up and just do a 360 so we can see John. Just give him a round of applause, okay? Okay? So if you need to figure out anything, you know who to call. So look, when I hear a no, I don't hear no, I just hear, you've just made $100. And so I don't get rejected, I just meet people who temporarily cannot appreciate quality. And I never fail, I just encounter unexpected consequences. So the very important point over here is that every single day with every single person, in every single conversation, you want to be practicing. And I want to give you this disruptor definition of the word practice. Repeated performance or systematic exercise for the purpose of acquiring skill or proficiency. So here you have a group of surgeons literally engaged in a life and death activity, and they're going to deliver the best possible result they can, but they are doing it intentionally to become even better in the next operation. You know, there is an institution about 20 kilometers north of this building. It's called Shouldice up in Thornhill, and they specialize in one kind of operation, which is hernia repair. They do over 6,500 repairs every year. They are the world's leading institution. And what they commit to is that every operation makes them better at repairing hernias. So my point to all of you in this room is in every meeting, play full out, but also ask yourself, how do I become even better in the next meeting? So let's take the medical metaphor further. Seeing as you are, in some shape, manner, or form, in the business of healthcare. This man's name is Stephen Westerby, one of the most admired cardiac surgeons in the UK, and he asks a very simple question. Which surgeons would have the highest death rates, the worst ones or the best ones? What do you think? John, what do you think? Which surgeons would have the highest death rates, the worst ones or the best ones? The best ones. Again, you're absolutely right. Why, John? Why do you think? So good. So what John says is they're doing way more surgery, they're learning more, and John, they attract the worst patients like a magnet. Right? If someone is in a serious state, you don't put a life in the hands of someone who's not truly outstanding. And so the moral of the story is this simple statement from the Harvard Business Review. Excellence is not the opposite of failure. Excellence and failure often have a lot in common. And I think what's very important that we heard from Barry's communication today is this is a journey that we are on. It's a journey that began 2 years ago, in fact, even past that. But 2 years ago, the decision was made to kind of own that relationship with the customer, not have that partner. And so in between, there's been moves back and forth. There might have been certain initiatives that didn't yield optimal results, but that's how we learn. Einstein said, an experiment is not an experiment if you know how it's going to turn out. So excellence and failure often have a lot in common, but every time we don't get what we want, we get what we need if we process it through the right lenses. So you're looking at a man who never fails. I just encounter unexpected results. And then I learn from that. And anytime you do something of quality, anytime you do something with a view to benefiting somebody else, you can always repurpose that learning later on. Does that make sense? Hello? Okay, great. So let's look at the fifth secret. And this is what I do for a living. Communicate like magic. Now, why do I use the word magic? Because magic is a kind of spell that we cast on people. Magic is when something we cannot even touch or even feel actually can have an impact on us that changes us from the inside out. So let's do a quick exercise. If I can ask you to stand up for a moment. Got a couple minutes to go, but we all know the chair is not your friend. When your butt goes numb, your brain follows. So let's do a very quick exercise. I want you to tell two people, maybe at your table, maybe the one next to you. I just want you to say to them, the reason why I admire you is. Even if you've never met them before, find a reason. So what's your first name? Liven. So Liven, the reason why I admire you is you're a great listener, and I can feel the intelligence coming out of your every pore. So just turn to a person either side of you, give them one reason why you really admire them, even if you don't know them. Okay, take a seat, please. Take a seat. Take a seat. So look, what just happened there? Well, you like the other person immediately, right? Have you noticed that? We like people who like us, and no one ever says to somebody else, I like you because we've got big differences. Right? You felt great because they shared with you what they like about you. And so your adrenaline started to surge, your endorphins started to rise, even your dopamine, which is, the natural pleasure hormone, started to pump out. And you also created this hormone between the two of you called oxytocin, which is called the love hormone, professionally speaking. But you felt that connection. I saw people embracing each other, smiling at each other, shaking each other's hands, hugging each other. And I'm going to ask you to do something every day. Catch people being extraordinary. Go out of your way to pay what I call an authentic compliment. I've been doing this work for 26 years. I've never got tired of someone sharing with me the impact I had or the difference I made or what they took away from my communication. By the way, how many of you in this room are getting way too much appreciation? Who's got to turn to your boss and say, stop with all this kudos? We never get enough of that, right? One guy at the back who's well recognized. Okay, so look, this is a phrase that I believe in so intensely, I've had it tattooed somewhere on my person. And what this means is ichigo, ichie. Just say that with me, ichigo, ichie. And what that really means is one life, one meeting, which really means every conversation only happens one time. So this conversation that we're having never, ever happens again, but it's the same with every other conversation. Can I see by show of hands, how many of you are in a lifetime relationship with another human being? Okay. How often are you having conversations with them where you're not even in the conversation? You're on automatic pilot. You're not even listening, in fact. Yeah, this is a wake-up call. And I hope you've told this other person how much you love, adore, and admire them today, because if you aren't telling them that, maybe somebody else is. Just saying. And the same thing applies to our customers. The same thing applies to our colleagues. So make every conversation a masterpiece, because every conversation earns us a right to the next one. 3 principles I want to share with you. The others are in the book. The first is keep other people's eyes on their prize. So when you're talking to people, be the reason why they can focus on what they want to achieve. So hopefully what you've heard me talk about today is how is these insights helping you achieve your personal goal and the payments and rewards division goal, and of course through convergence, the Loblaw's goal of demonstrating that passion for the customer in such a way that the customer is not tempted to go elsewhere. Number 2, you want to listen like you really mean it. Let's do something quickly. Turn to a person on either side of you, just look them in the eyes, don't say anything, but just look at them in such a way that you really are delighted to be next to them. Yeah, come back to me. Yeah. Right. So I want to give you a very important point here. We talk at the rate of the other person's listening. So in other words, if someone listens like they really engaged, we will talk to them in a more engaging way. If someone listens like they don't mean it, if they listen like they frustrated or irritated or would rather be somebody else, we don't bring out our best game. We're only as good as the listening we receive. And then the final point here, and if all you do is take this point away in my whole session, my work will be done, you be a great place to work. So Loblaw wants to be a great place to work, and it's recognized as a great place to work. But what about the 5 to 10 feet around you? When people come into your space, do they feel a sense of energy and excitement, or do they want to step away? Because people vote with their legs, either towards you or away from you. So be a great place to work. Make it easy to be with you. Now, this is a woman who's one of my heroes. Her name is Pat Summitt. She was the coach of the Tennessee women's basketball team, and she's one of the most winningest coaches in any sport, with over 1,000 victories to her name. She was also the victim of early onset dementia, and so she scoped her journey and her battle with dementia. And so just check out Pat Summitt. It's a fascinating story. She wrote a story of her life, and then when she passed, the people around her completed the story. It's very moving. But she said something that is part of my DNA, and I hope I'm demonstrating it now. In every meeting, we train others how to expect us to be in the next meeting. So you want to be so good in the meeting that other people leave feeling like it's been a great experience and they want more. Okay, let's move to a close here. Let's get to what I've been building up to, which is how do you collaborate like a champion? And we know that today is all about collaboration. Now, the garden variety definition of collaboration is working together to achieve a common goal. But when you collaborate like a champion, other people want to give you more time and attention because you give them the highest return on that time and attention. You know, there are people in all our lives that we want to be part of our teams because they are what I call the potentiators. They motivate us, they empower us to play at our best, and so we want to collaborate with them. And so just as you are building the Loblaw brand, the PC Optimum brand, the Payment and Rewards Division brand, you're also building your own brand as a collaborator. So I want to quote the great Bill Gates, who said that all of us, if we want to be a great collaborator, need to grow an ecosystem of partners that shares its genius. You know, I'm only as good as the people in my ecosystem. So are you building that ecosystem? Are you enabling people to bring their best? Let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a meeting where you were so good that you amazed yourself? Right. Every now and then we experience that, right? You're in the meeting and you're confronted with what appears to be an insoluble challenge. And all of us in the next year are going to have to do something we've never done before. And so we're in the meeting, we don't know where to go, and then somebody in the meeting says something and we go, oh my goodness, that's it. And that person goes, yep, that's me. And in those meetings, you bring out your best because you know you're in the business of creating that ecosystem. So let me bring the slide to life. This is my personal ecosystem. And I invite all of you to engage in this exercise. If you ever feel alone, if you ever feel overwhelmed, if you ever feel like it's just too much, and by the way, we'll all go through those emotions daily, you then want to look at the infrastructure around you, your personal convergence of people that enable you to play at your best. So I'll just share with you some of these folks here. In the lower left-hand corner, I'm aligned with the organization that brings Tony Robbins to town. People pay to hear Tony Robbins. They get Mike Lipkin. Then I've got an accountant who's fantastic, and being a small business owner, he enables me to do some very interesting things that enable my cash flow to remain as vital as it needs to be. Then above him is my website designer. Carla Conkson is my networker-in-chief. She's phenomenal. She inspires me to network. Heather Pizzazz is the woman who designs my slides. Underneath Heather is my 3 girls, my wife, my 2 daughters. That is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Amazon and LinkedIn are my digital enablers. Right next to them is my crew at Starbucks. I don't survive without caffeine. And right next to my crew from Starbucks is my crew of millennials who teach me how to talk millennial. And so the best compliment you can ever pay me is to call me sick. All right? Just underneath them is Dr. Marla Shapiro. She's won the Order of Canada for her contribution to family medicine. She's my family doctor. She's my friend. She's my confidant, my consultant, phenomenal woman. And then there's Karen Bosson, just next to Marla. Karen is the events and conference leader for shoppers. And Karen actually referenced me to Nadine, who then referenced me to Barry. And so she's part of my extended network. Without her, I may not be here. In the top right-hand corner is Michael Adams, who's my business partner. We've been in business together for 20 years. Being an immigrant to Canada, love operating out of Toronto. Great, great city, great, great country. And then, of course, Google. Right? The world and data have been democratized. So I put all of this in front of you because these are the people who enable me. And the best compliment anybody can pay you is to see you as part of their ecosystem. And the best compliment anyone can pay you is to call you when they need your help, when they need your help to get through a challenging day. So when you get those calls, take those calls. But also when you need help, reach out to others. When people reach out to me and say, Mike, just needed your insight, just needed you to be a little bit of a pick-me-up, again, great compliment. And I'll give you this insight. If something takes you less than 5 minutes to do it without even thinking. Because something that can only take you 5 minutes can make a massive difference to the people around you. Be generous with your time, with your energy, and your resources. Because when we look back at our lives, the things that we regret the most are the times we could have given more, but we didn't. We never regret being generous. We often regret not being generous enough. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So let's wrap. This is the high-octane fuel that drives all the secrets. It's called being unconditionally enthusiastic. Not just enthusiastic when things are copacetic or when things are hunky-dory. If everything is going well, then it's easy to be enthusiastic. The time to be enthusiastic is when you really are in that crunch moment. The word enthusiastic comes from the Greek word entheos, which means divine. So when you're being enthusiastic, you bring your best game. So those 4 or 5 people who've been with this firm for less than 4 months, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, those folks are the most enthusiastic people in the room. Do you know why? Because they have a very poorly developed sense of the odds against them. They don't know that it cannot be done, so they're going to go and do it. That's why every one of us need to see our lives as day one. We need to see every day as the first day we're doing what we're doing, so we bring that level of enthusiasm. And I want to wrap with this final slide that brings together what I've endeavored to share with you this morning. So in my native South Africa, I still do a fair amount of work, and one of the most incredible opportunities is going into a game park. You should put that on your bucket list. Going to Africa, go into a game park, go on a night drive where you watch a pride of lions feasting on a zebra or feasting on some antelope that they brought down. That gives new meaning to eat what you kill. That's about as fresh as it gets. It's not beyond meat, man, that's meat. So we went on a night drive, and then we came back to the campfire, and I gave this kind of talk around a campfire. And if you think I'm articulate sober, you should hear me after a bottle of South African Shiraz. Anyway, that evening was a great evening, and eventually the hour became late, and the game ranger, the individual protecting us with a gun in case a predator came into the camp, told us to go to sleep. And then he said words I've never forgotten. He said, make sure to fasten the flaps of your tent securely, because when the fire goes out, the predators come in. Right? When the fire goes out here, then the doubts and the anxieties come in. So you want to be burning bright, but not burning out. The biggest challenge facing all of us, this is the number one theme in the workplace today, is mental, physical, and emotional wellness. And so you want to keep that fire burning. You want to find a way to sustain that vitality and enthusiasm so that other people feel enthused when they're around you. You know, there's an ancient African saying that says, umuntu, umuntu, ngabantu. And you know what that means? We're all angels with one wing. We can only fly while embracing each other. We're only as good as the people around us and their capacity to pull us forward. So those are the 7 secrets to thriving on massive change so the best people want to partner with you. Become someone who really knows. Be an audacious dreamer. Be simultaneously analytical and creative. Be prolific. Communicate like magic. Collaborate like a champion. Be unconditionally enthusiastic. In the book, I go deep into each one of these secrets. I know I've shared a lot with you in a very short amount of time. Don't worry about how much you're taking away or how do you apply all of these. This is like a toolkit. When the moment arises, you apply the appropriate tool. And just so you know, I write books for people who don't have time to read. So you'll see as you scan through the books, there are bright headings, bright call-outs, lists of actions you can take. Open it anywhere. Whatever that action is, think about applying it that day. And most importantly, be the reason why other people believe in the goodness of others. I had a mentor who gave me that advice. I've never forgotten it. Be the reason why other people believe in the goodness of others. Be the reason why customers feel empowered to carry on. Be the reason why people can believe in their future and live that extraordinary quality of life that we all dream for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. My name is Mike Lipkin, and I approve this message. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.